Welcome to our podcast, Urban Legend. In this episode, we dive into the life and career of an extraordinarily talented and versatile artist, Robert Provenzano. Better known as Says, this Italian-American writer and designer has had a significant impact on street art culture globally, leaving his mark in every corner of the world. Born and raised in the Bronx, New York, Says began painting on the walls of his hometown in the 1980s, quickly establishing himself as one of the most influential figures of graffiti's golden age. With its unique and ever-evolving style, Says has been able to blend the traditional art of graffiti with modern and innovative elements, creating works that have become icons of the street art movement. Through his career, Says has worked with world-renowned brands, collaborated with other big names in urban art, and participated in numerous exhibitions and festivals around the world.
How does it make you feel being considered the most influential artist of street art of all time?
Well, I say as an artist, to inspire other artists is probably the greatest thing you can do, because the money, it come and go, and the fame, it come and go, and for me, being an artist and being looked upon as being successful in what I'm doing is constantly growing and experiencing more, and even coming here to Rome and experiencing different cultures and meeting different artists and sharing these experiences. This is something that builds up for others to be inspired from.
During your career, many brands ask you to participate to events, such as the Super Bowl. How is the collaboration between street art and brands evolving nowadays?
Yes, I feel that as a graffiti writer, street artist, anyone coming from outside of big companies and stuff like this, to be accepted is definitely an honor and an opportunity. You just have to be careful of whether or not it's the right deal. I've done a lot of different things and learned some things weren't so good and smart for me to do, and some were much better. So it's a learning process. And again, I truly believe that, if you're passionate about what you're doing, that things will happen for you. It doesn't happen when you want them. Nothing in this world does. So, as long as you keep on your path and believing in yourself, big companies, little companies, the little kid who looks up to you for what you're doing today, all of these things add up to something. I don't feel that it's one big thing that makes a change. It's a lot of little things that you build upon to become the person you want to be.
How was the Super Bowl experience for you?
Oh yeah, the Super Bowl was a great experience, flying to Miami and doing artwork there. It wasn't my favorite team playing, so I made the best of the situation. But yes, it was a big honor, and I was really privileged to take part in that, and the newspapers covered it, and so there was a lot of press and media that came with it. It was on TV during the Super Bowl of me painting. So I was like, it wasn't even the Super Bowl that was like a major. I did also something for Major League Baseball in America, which is very big, and doing baseball cards, which is something I collected as a kid. So they came to my studio and filmed me working on the artwork, and to go home and watch on TV the New York Yankees from the Bronx play and see myself on TV, I was like, oh, if the little kid when I was 14 could see now where I would be, it was a very big honor, and I'm still like blown away that I was able to do these things.
You started in the 70s in the Bronx. How was life then?
Well, technically I started in the 80s. I started painting graffiti in 1983. So it was very aggressive in New York in those times, and there wasn't any, how can I say, looking for a future of being an artist doing this. It was just primarily from artist to artist, and that was it. The public wanted no part of it. Police always with problems. So these things were something that, I as I think back now, how dangerous and difficult things were, but how simple they were at the same time, because it's a total contrast to today, where, again, we fly all over the world and global communication just with the phone in your pocket. There was none of this. So there was no internet or anything. If you knew somebody, it's only because you saw it. You went out and lived. And that's what's lost in today's translation of things, where you don't necessarily even have to leave your house. You could just paint in your house and put it on the computer and the world sees. So the adventure of being an artist was probably one of the greatest experiences of the 80s that I can recall.
And what about your Italian heritage?
My father's parents are from Italy, in Calabria. So they came to New York in, I'm gonna say in the 1920s. My father was born and raised in Harlem, New York, and then later moved to the Bronx. So he speaks perfect Italian. My grandparents taught my mother, who was Irish, how to cook Italian, because it was very important that you must, if you marry my father, you must be able to cook like an Italian, and she's Irish. So, you know, growing up with the mixed Italian, Irish, I always ate Italian food my whole life. I was always very fond of it. As a matter of fact, me and my brother would always argue who's the Italian one and who's the Irish one, you know, based on what we do and so on. So, you know, very proud to be an Italian, yes.
How has your Italian origin influenced your art?
It's very possible that my Italian origin did have some influence, because, again, my father had books of Leonardo. So, like, I remember these books as a kid, and they were very big and very heavy, and they were very high on the shelf. So for me to take them down was like a job, you know. But to look at them, I would just look at these beautiful pictures, and I say, man, a person can do these things. It's incredible. This is long before I'm thinking graffiti or anything comes into my life. I watch cartoons on TV or comic, but yes, my father was artistically inclined. He can make things from wood, he can paint and do these things, but he was more about money and business. So when I found out that I was an artist by being around other children, I didn't know that nobody else can draw but me. You know, when I go to school and they say, oh, draw your favorite animal today, and I draw a beautiful tiger, and all the kids draw a circle and a square, and I say, oh, I'm different. I never let go. I stay with this for all through school to live a life of an artist. I wasn't worried, because I said, this is what I'm gonna do. I don't know how, right? So I stick with it and it works. Some people I know knew how to draw. They didn't cultivate this. They just say, oh, it's for kids, or you know, it's not important. It's more difficult to make money. And in New York, I say, to be able to make it and build upon success and stay true to it. Not every day is a winning day. I don't think that happens for everyone. You know, sometimes it's difficult. I wish, oh, maybe I just have a regular life with a regular job, and I go to work at this time and I come home at this time every day. I don't have that life. You know, I know people who do, and sometimes I admire it, because sometimes it's like, okay, what's next? What's happening next? My phone's gonna ring. I'm waiting for email and things to happen, and things fall through. So the life of an artist can be a struggle. It's up and down. It's no guarantee. But to stay true and stay committed to what I'm doing is what I've been able to do for many years now.
When and how did you call yourself Chess?
I started writing Cess in 1983. I messed around with different letters to try and figure. First, I write my last name, Provenzano. I write Pro. And I write this for maybe 1-2 days. And my friends tell me, that's too close to your name. They're gonna know this is you. This is not how you do this, you know, writing on the streets. And I say, yeah, that's true. I gotta figure out something. So, you know, there were certain people that I was seeing their work, and I wanted to emulate what they were doing. So I took different letters and put it together and created my own word, Cess, which At the time, I spelt it S-E-S. This is very early. And it was very difficult for me to make an S, an E, and the same S. So it was trying to do two things the same. I was like, oh, this is hard. Making it hard for myself. I changed to C-E-S. Still says SES, but spelled differently. And as a young man, a lot of my friends in school and stuff, I became known as SES at a very young age. It was almost like becoming like a superhero from a comic. I could be Roberto one day for my family and this, and then I go outside, I become SES. And SES does all of these wild things, right? So I found that as a young man, like almost like I say, like being a superhero. I put on a cape and I changed my identity.
When did you decide that your art would become your profession?
I decided that probably from the first day I knew that I can draw. I said, this is what I want to do. Of course, I didn't work out like that. I work a lot of different jobs and just to pay bills for a very long time. But I've been a working artist now for maybe 25, almost 30 years of my life, just living from doing art.
How did cartoons influence your work?
Well, cartoons influenced me, comic books influenced me, and then as I got older, other more contemporary arts I would look at. But I see art in everything. It's just, as an artist, and most artists may agree, that you see the beauty in destruction. You see the beauty in a woman in fashion, how she wear the right color and the accessories. I can see art in so many different things, even in food, so understanding things that aren't structured to be presented as art, I see as art. Even the clouds in the sky, the nature, such great art. It's natural. So once you have this vision of seeing how colors exist with each other and the composition of things, and add it and build upon to my art and see things in a different way. I do a lot of drawing and sketches where I would take my name and turn my name into some object that wouldn't have anything to do with anything. It could be 3 strawberries, but it spells ses, or it could be an apple that was cut open and it spells ses. So I don't look for the art, but now it's art, artistic ability starts, but then the thinking of how to make everything composed to send this message, right? And not always doing graffiti style, which I love. I'm very passionate about graffiti, but that's more for the graffiti artists and within our culture. To help the world understand, I found it was easier and better for me to add everyday objects from life where people can identify and say, oh yes, I know, what a banana is, and oh, you use this in your art in such a way, they understand now. When you do graffiti and you do just very aggressive lettering, it makes people, it's very foreign to them, and that's okay. And we don't expect people to take part in it, but now more than ever, people are understanding it. I mean, look, we're here.
How has your urban style evolved?
Well, for my particular style and the way that I go about painting and creating, if we're talking graffiti, I was heavily influenced by the 70s of New York and the 80s of New York, and even a lot of writers of today. So I'm constantly growing and evolving, but I still stay true to my New York roots and my heritage of what I was raised seeing and experiencing. Like I said, before the internet, before all of these things, it was things that really impacted me that I still see. I could still smell the train and the tracks, and this never goes away, right? So I took all these experiences to constantly build and evolve into the person that I want to be. I also learn what not to be, which is equally as important, because you see certain artists and stuff, they reach a point and they can only repeat this same song, so to speak, yeah? I find that becomes like, okay, you only hold the interest of people for so long before they hear this song too many times. So you have to constantly evolve with what it is that you love and make it better for yourself. And from there, things start to happen. And that's something I take pride in, that I don't really get stuck in doing one thing. I like to do many different things with my art. I don't just say, no, I only do this. And I understand that for certain people that works, because also, sadly, that some artists get stuck in a hole where you only want that from them, right? They want to do something new, but you don't want to buy the something new. You want what they're famous for and for repeat. But if you keep doing that, that's all you'll ever get, and it becomes not so fun because you're just repeating yourself. You want to do different things, but they don't want it. So if you do different things and people know you're a very versatile artist, that you can do so many different styles and so many different ways, it's a better way to communicate and to grow and keep things new.
In which way did you innovate your wildstyle?
I feel, and I've been told, that I'm more of a bridge between the earlier New York work and more contemporary of today, where I can take from what I was raised knowing and present it more towards today's artists, and they can understand, okay, because a lot of the earlier stuff is very dated and has a certain look, which I love very much, but sometimes it doesn't translate well for today, younger people and just people in general, just more fast, more moving parts to it, you know. So for me, I would say that just the growth of what I'm doing is not a particular style, but at the same time it is, because I can only do what I can do, you know, a few times where I want to add more. And now you have paint companies that make new colors and new techniques, and if you're painting a wall, if you're painting a train, if you're painting canvas, not everything is set for the same surface. So I have to have different ways of approaching different things, to have a style that is universal, that I can use for certain situations or events. You know, like for me, painting canvas, it wasn't what I set out to do, you know, but as I see it in a way, I put it to you like this, like graffiti is meant to be on the streets, it's meant to be on the trains. It's how it was recognized, and it's its natural place, right? Like an animal. You take a lion, he's meant to be out living his life amongst other lions, but you put him in a zoo, and that's what people look maybe as graffiti on canvas. It is now taken, and the action and the motion and the energy is different. Well, I try and give you that energy on canvas. I try and be that lion in the zoo that's proud, you know, and still stands in this position in a certain way that is undeniable, that you know that lion is the same as he's here as he would be there. It's not pretending or fake or like this. So this is how I approach things, to be strong in all areas.
You've used many techniques and instruments. Are you looking for new ways of painting?
As far as my canvas, I feel, you know, because it's all I can say, I can't really have an opinion other than of myself. I like to airbrush. I like spray paint. These are for canvas. It's as close as I can get to real painting on the street. The difference is you don't get to paint a big wall to make a canvas this big. Nobody has space in their house for this. Maybe the king or queen, yeah? But so I find that I had to bring it down. So airbrushing, I still use spray paint through the airbrush, which still has the feel, and I'm able to recreate paintings that still look like real graffiti using real spray paint not pretending anything different and stuff like this. So I don't see very many people doing that on that level. So it's something that has worked out for me immensely, that I'm able to continue doing this. Introducing other instruments into my art just is more just experimental. But again, spray paint, airbrush, these are my number one tools. I've used acrylic and brush and stuff like this, but it doesn't really lend itself. You wouldn't go out and paint a train with acrylics and a brush, right? So if you're doing maybe a realism or stuff like that, I can achieve that with the airbrush, which I don't know too many people that are writing graffiti that are doing that on such a level. So that's something I take pride in.
You're now in Rome, working for Honiro Art Gallery. Can you describe the new painting you've made, King of New York?
Okay. Yes, the painting that I did for Honiro that you have here now, here in Rome, which is a pleasure to be here, thank you for having me, is when I was approached to do it, I was able to have more of an open dialogue to say, well, you can choose the hip-hop artist or something influential in hip-hop that you would like to create on canvas. So I really, I love Wu-Tang. I love, I do a lot of artwork for them and in that situation. So it was kind of like, this is something I wanted to step out of and say, I really always loved Biggie. I never really did anything, maybe I did a few drawings and stuff early for Biggie, but I felt like, as a matter of fact, we did. When Biggie was shot, we did a wall, and it was on TV, and it was in all the big publications at that time. So I can't say, we actually did do that. So this was coming back to that, and now being the 50th anniversary of hip hop, I really had to think like, okay, it's easy to celebrate somebody who's still here and doing things, and they have the opportunity to speak for themselves and make decisions. I think somebody who is no longer with us, who had great impact, is more of a celebration of that. So in my painting, Biggie being self-proclaimed King of New York, I created him almost as if we collaborated. So he's here in the painting with the subway tiles behind him, and the station is BIG, right? And it says King of New York, and then the train riding by with his lyrics on the train. It's almost two parallels, because it's like my life. Like, I never thought I would make it this far, something that he says in this music. Well, I say the same for art, right? So what he's saying for hip hop, I'm recreating with my art. And a lot of people say, you didn't know you were going to make it this far. I pinch myself to say that here I am. Based upon his lyric, it's almost like the lyrics for life, for inspiration. So I try and have this come through in the painting.
What is your vision of hip-hop culture?
Very big motivation. It wasn't as commercial as it is today. You only hear it maybe on college radio. When I was a kid, I would record it from the radio, and that was my only way of getting, real hip-hop, not commercial hip-hop, which has seemed to have taken over. And I think once you involve money with anything, it becomes a different animal. So the importance of hip-hop in today, it's the expression, and it's something that still represents inner city, or for that matter, the young movements and the mindset of people can really say positive messages, although there's a percentage that doesn't. It's more celebrating things that maybe we may not agree, but that's not our life story. But it's what brings people together, and that's the differences. Not everything can be the same. So you pick and you choose what you like, what influences you. I grew up more on 90s hip hop in New York, so I have a particular fondness for that, As far as today's stuff, I I hate to tell you, but I wouldn't know if half of those people walked in the door right now. I wouldn't even know who they were. I don't really listen to it because it just doesn't do it for me. They have different sounds and instruments and they make funny noises or call themselves crazy names and tattoos all over their face, looking like something that's just out of this world. I can't relate to what they're saying. But for the 90s, that's, to me, when hip-hop was the best.
Do you think the evolution of hip-hop music has influenced your art?
I feel the golden age of hip-hop, which we know as the 90s in New York, has influenced me, and I've grown with it. I feel almost equal to the growth of hip-hop, to the growth of myself. So yes, I mean, it's difficult to say because there's still people like you take Nas or Wu-Tang or some of these guys, or even on the West Coast, Dr. Dre or Snoop and these guys, they still hold a very classic grip on what I love of hip-hop, yeah? And that's the way I feel towards my art, is very similar to that. It's not for everyone, but people who understand, and it's a big world. It's a very big world. You can like what you want to like, and that's on you. So it's the same. Art, as we know, is very subjective. Like, you can't tell me what to like. Either I like it or I don't. It's the same with food or anything like this. So for music, what I like, I don't care if somebody else doesn't like it. It's the same how hip-hop has survived and grown. It's not for everyone, but there are enough people out here who really respect it, and that also runs equally with graffiti. Because graffiti, just like hip-hop, wasn't accepted very early on. It took time to wear down the people for them to say, you know what, these guys aren't going away. And it's starting to look better, it's starting to sound better, it's starting to show up in different places in my life that I'm gonna have to accept this, as legitimate art form, as hip-hop, as legitimate music, not just music that was just in the street or in the park. It is now worldwide movement, right? And with that becomes a lot of responsibility, just like with the graffiti and the art that we do. We have to understand all the responsibilities that come with being a powerful person or a person within the culture. You just can't make wrong decisions and expect people to understand. You're representing something bigger than yourself. And that goes hip-hop for the world, it goes for us graffiti writers to the world. We just want to evolve and take it into places that it's never been.
Do you think it is possible today for a young artist to start a successful career in graffiti?
Yes, I feel for young people there is plenty of room for success within the culture of graffiti and art. It's really just, you can't set out to do something for money and be motivated only by money. Then maybe you should become a doctor or an actor, and maybe you try yourself in that world. Because I couldn't tell you, if I set out to do graffiti to make money, in the 80s, this was not it. Graffiti was a guarantee. You were either going to jail, getting robbed, getting hurt, maybe getting killed. It wasn't for money. So that motivation now is what has changed within the culture, because now you see artists like Cause and Futura and very successful people who are at a certain level that they can inspire people, where they say, hey, I look at it as it's possible. What they show me is that it's possible to really go and break boundaries and with your creative ability to conquer this side of, of the art. As a young person, you have to be careful not to be confused that the reason we're doing this is not for the money, because the money, it comes and goes, you know. In the end, what you're left with is your art, and that should be your passion. It shouldn't be, oh, well, it's worthless because I didn't sell it. You should be proud of it whether you sold it today or next year or never. You know, it's how you go about doing what you do, and that's how I go about it. I can create a painting, and I think to myself, first, I don't want to sell it because I love it so much, and then I hold on to it, and then sometimes down the road things work out, and you're able to you know, have it in a certain museum or a show or used for something else. It wasn't set out. I paint because I love to paint. I don't go into my studio and say, oh, I'm gonna make money today. That's not my motivation, you know? And I think looking at it like that, it frees me of these kinds of hang-ups so that I can feel free to just paint what I feel is inside of me to let out. And things worked out, you know? Things worked out, and they're working out. So I'm very pleased, and lucky is a lot to do with it. But it's not about being lucky. It's about just understanding who you are and your ability to move and to network in this world. And these things are all, you know, everything comes together. That's more or less how it has to be.
What is the relationship between the authenticity of art and the commercial system?
Well, to be an artist and to look for success and to be independent is something that, you know, you can't really get to decide that. If big companies want to contact you, if opportunity comes to you for what you're doing, then that's a plus, you know. So it all depends on how you set out to present yourself to the world. You can't guarantee, you can't say, oh, I'm going to do this and these things are going to happen. It doesn't work like that. You make yourself available, you keep creating what it is that you love to do, and you hope that things fall into place.
Do you prefer to work alone, or is it better to have a team?
I can do both. I can work alone or I can collaborate. I'll tell you this, for me, creating paintings in the studio and stuff like that, it's better for me, for myself, yeah. But for me to collaborate on projects with other artists, I've traveled around the world, and other artists is what we inspire, because it lets me know that I'm not the only crazy one. Everybody else loves this too. Sometimes I think, oh, you know, am I crazy? I just, like here I'm in Rome, I haven't seen the Colosseum, I haven't done anything. I've painted with all the artists here every day. And you know, you come back home and you tell everyone, oh, you went to Rome, oh, that's beautiful. Where's your picture? I said, well, I painted here and I painted there and I did this. But that's what I love. And I'm experiencing all the artists out here, and they take me to eat and go out and real life. Like I feel like I live versus I'm a tourist. I'm not good at being a tourist because I've been an artist who's been traveling for many, many years. Yeah. And I get a shortcut right into real life here, right? So, you know, for me, it's my way.
Sometimes institutions have a difficult time inserting urban art in their exhibitions. Do you think it's still the case?
I think that urban art, graffiti art as we know it, has grown immensely in the professional art world. It's still very much at the bottom, yeah? And we understand that, but that's okay. It's small steps to a bigger place. So, you know, a lot of museums and galleries, they may not accept it or recognize it still, and that's okay. It's not for them. And it goes both ways. I don't really care for what they're producing and doing. It doesn't influence me or make me a better person. I think graffiti, in my lifetime, I've seen it grow and go into places that I never imagined it to go. So it's constantly moving and infiltrating the world in a positive way. We were just in London, we showing artwork with Beyond the Streets at the Saatchi Gallery, which is a very prestigious gallery in London, which to have graffiti of such a large exhibition, maybe, you would have said this 25 years ago, would be impossible. It's reaching these places, and the right people are doing the right things to see that these things happen. So me as an artist, I have to deliver and grow with what's happening, yeah? So again, where we'll be in another 25 years is pretty incredible to think about. If you think about where it started, and the steps, though very slow and small, have gotten to a much bigger place. So these museums and these galleries may not recognize today, and that will be their mistake later, and I believe it.
Let's talk about the projects you consider the most important for you.
Well, for today, right now, I'm fortunate to work with Roger Gassman and Beyond the Streets, and we've done several large exhibitions around the world. Currently, we were in New York a couple of years ago, very successful. Now it's in London, and now it's moving towards Shanghai to China, and from there, you know, on to bigger and better things. So this is something I've been very proud of and privileged to work with. It's very inspiring in the sense of the large scale. I've never really been a part of something on that scale and that level of achieving. And I don't think, for that matter, graffiti as a whole has been. So it's not just for me, it's for the culture, which is equally as big, yeah? But me as an individual, you know, I've done some really great projects over the years and have great opportunity to do these things. But I'm still very passionate that I don't run from painting out on the street and doing things. I find equal passion in doing that as well. So, like, for me, it's just staying creative and experiencing the life of an artist, not looking for the achievement and saying, oh, I only paint for money, and I only paint if it's special, and I only do this. No, I like all experiences. I can't do everything. So I have to make right decisions, yeah? Not always right decisions, but, you know, I enjoy what I do. And to me, that's the greatest gift, is I live from what I do, and I'm still very passionate about what I do. And I wouldn't trade that for anything, because I know a lot of regular people who have to get up and go to work, yeah? And there's no passion about saying, yes, I'm going to go in and I'm going to change the world in this company and I'm going to make a difference. You know, it happens in art, you know. I've met a lot of people, you know, even yesterday it was very special, like the writers here let me know how special it was just for seeing me paint and how influential I was to them as young people, and they recognize it. And they say, this doesn't happen every day, this opportunity for us. And, you know, it means something to me to hear it, because I understand I have the same feelings as a young person when I meet my artistic heroes, yeah? So it's very important that I keep that true, right? And recognize that and not destroy that by saying, oh yeah, I'm special, I could take advantage of you, you do this for me and you do that, because these things happen, right? People use it as like a hustle. I'm not that person. I recognize when people are very in love with the art and we share that together.
What is the relationship between art and technology?
I feel technology plays a big part in the evolution of an artist, in such a sense that it's used as communication. That's one of the things about art. But the technology coming in, you know, from the birth of the internet to even the simplistic cell phone in your pocket, where you can view things and communicate directly with another artist or of this nature, or see what they're doing. And if you don't exist in technology today, if you don't have a social media or even an email, you almost don't exist, yeah? So technology is very vital to not only artists, but people in general to communicate. And so for art, it's a visual. You must see it, you know, there's something you know that your eyes have to see and experience. So to be able to view that through technology and how technology helps push the art forward, sharing it with the world or showing different techniques and influencing just not what I'm doing, but what other artists are doing. Even here, when I got here, I wanted to go and paint. So I communicated to the paint company, Montana, at Spray Planet, and I said, I'm here and I need paint because I want to go and paint some things with some of the local artists, and I want to make sure I'm using, the paint. And with one phone call, they had the paint at the store, we get the paint, and this is technology at work, whether we realize it or not. You could throw me out of a plane anywhere in the world, wherever I land, I can call to Montana and say, hey, I'm over here. Where can we get paint? They make it happen. I introduce now to other artists. And just like that, I'm part of the culture of what's happening in that city. And it sounds strange. If you would have told me this when I was a kid, I'd be like, wait a minute, so you can fly anywhere in the world, get off the plane and make a phone call, and the paint company is going to tell you you have paint over here and this is where. It's incredible. And that's technology at work.
Can an artist become an activist?
Well, yes, I think as an artist or as a person first, it is important to be aware of what's going on in the world around you. And it would be an injustice to yourself and to your peers if you're not. So, when you find yourself in a position of being an influential person within your culture, it's best to slow down and recognize what's happening around you, and again, make right decisions. Understand the whole story before making these decisions, and adding to the positive side of things is what I approach. Don't make things worse. There's too much nonsense in the world. There's a lot of nonsense in graffiti culture. I don't take part in any of that. So as somebody who might be like a spokesman for my generation within the culture that I come from, I hope to be a positive influence and have people believe in what I'm doing by my actions, not by what I say so much. So they see that I'm productive, I'm doing things. It's perception that people, see what they want to see, right? So we have interviews like this to now define what it is that you stand for and show whether or not you're an idiot or you know what you're doing and you know what you have and you're making the best of what you have so that others can follow behind you and right the wrongs of what happened to people before me. Because there's so many artists that I grew up loving and really looking up to, that it was just an unfortunate time, that they weren't able to get the rewards that are available today, that are constantly growing, but that's within any culture. Their importance is very important and vital to the growth of myself and future artists. It doesn't matter now that, they're not celebrated in that same light, but they are, and they may not always know it.
Have you ever organized events in the Bronx in order to promote young artists?
Yeah, I've done many projects with young people. I've not only done it in the Bronx, I've done it abroad. I've done it around the world and having workshops and teaching people and showing them, different technique or different ways to look at things in a different light. Also within the culture, having artists come from other areas and collaborating on we have a rooftop in the Bronx where my studio space is, and I've had artists from all over the world come and paint and experience this wonderful place that's been around for gotta be 25 years now that we've been painting there. And it's totally private, where you can be yourself and paint and not have to worry about any nonsense, and you're around some of the best artists. So There's been plenty of young people to come and see. Sometimes it could be very intimidating for an artist to meet their favorite artist or see other works by artists they look up to. And I understand. I was younger myself, and to put myself in that position. But to make them feel comfortable and say, hey man, at the end of the day, we're all the same. You know, we all do this the same way. We're gonna have fun. And it's important. For me, one of the greatest things in life is to be happy, right? And if this is what makes me happy, I'm not hurting anybody, and I'm influencing people in the same process, it's a win.
What do you think about negative stereotypes regarding hip-hop and urban art?
No, I don't agree with the negative stereotypes of hip-hop or graffiti culture, for that matter. And the fact that they've been paired together for so long. I myself have worked on many projects that have brought things into the households of people who looked upon it as negative. And whether I change their mind, it's not for me to say or to be concerned with. It's that the opportunity was there, and if they missed it, then that's their loss. So again, hip-hop culture, graffiti culture is very similar in the sense that we've grown together, and we have spread throughout the world and influenced so many people who are constantly, the numbers are constantly raising and rising in such a rapid pace that we have to keep it special and keep it pure sometime, somehow, some way, because that's what happens. It's not so much that it's not accepted by people, but now we can destroy from within our culture if we're not smart and realize the power that we have and how to share with each other these ideas of moving into a successful place. That's to me what's important.
Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
I choose to believe in the future that the best is yet to come for me. I've been very fortunate in my life to make it to today, which is a blessing that we wake up every day, just to be here is great. Artistically, where I would love to be in the future is, again, like very simple. I just want to be happy, and I want to be creative. I want to be surrounded by people who are creative and who are passionate about what they do. So it doesn't matter that I'm getting big opportunities, or I'm okay with simple success, though I try really hard and I paint really the best that I can to represent myself and the culture. And things just, if they're meant to happen, they're gonna happen. But I can manifest what I can manifest and see myself in certain areas. Almost unbelievable that I've made it to where I am now. So anywhere from here is great. I'm just not going back. Once I'm through the door, I'm not leaving the building. I'm going all the way through.